Welcome to Let Freedom Ring. Per usual, keeping Soapy Pre up out of the studio. Not too concerned about him coming. We got a good deal with security. We had to redo the contract this year, so we have a deal for 2022 with security, so I'm very happy about that. But my guest this week, a man I go back many, many years with, Pleasure Pete Mankara. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, very happy to have you on. So
it's good to see you.
Let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
From Nashua, New Hampshire. So I grew up right behind historic Holman Stadium, right near downtown. Lived here, well, I should say there, we're a town over, most of my life, with a few interruptions back and forth between Nashua and Boston for, years in college and then much later in Cambridge. Little brief stint living in Switzerland, which that's a whole other story. But before I got the boot out of there, and then just couch surfing here and there. But Nashua's always been HQ. It's always been home. And a few years ago, when I started having kids and got married, it was a pretty easy decision to move to Nashua from the Boston area. I mean, primarily because we couldn't afford to live in Boston with children. But it's I didn't appreciate it as much when I was a kid, but I realized very quickly that Nashua is a real diamond in the rough. It's a real gem, and so I wanted to raise my kids there.
I mean, number one city, not once, but twice.
But twice. What was it, 97, 2007?
97, 87.
Oh, 97, 87.
It's always high ranking. I think Merrimack's actually high ranking too, but Merrimack's a town. So,
towns.
As much as I love Merrimack now, I'm just saying it's a town, not a city. But no, very awesome. Growing up by Holman, that must have been that's like the Pride Games, time.
I mean, when I was little, it was the Nashua Hawks, as you remember.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And then when the Pride came in, it was absolutely awesome. Living behind a stadium like that, where there were real games going on, I mean, to this day, I like to move it is burned into my soul because, every third inning when Monkey Boy comes out, that song's blasting over the speakers. Glory days, all that. I mean, I would literally see fireworks every single Friday night of every summer of my life because there'd be a, home baseball game of some sort going on to this day for the most part with the Silver Knights carrying on the tradition.
And the Silver Knights have been great too, but the hype of the Pride was like, oh my God, Jose Canseco's going to play here tonight?
Yeah, it was insane. We get to jeer Jose Canseco. We get to boo that guy. This is incredible. But yeah, I mean, growing up, seeing guys like DJ Boston and Sam Horn and launched 450-foot home runs out of Holman Stadium was just so cool at 12 years old. And I don't know if you remember this, but after the seventh inning, they would let anyone in for free.
Yes.
So we would just play basketball at the courts there, wait till the seventh inning, we hear the music, go right in. They open the back gates. It's time.
Yeah, those were great times. I mean, I remember I was still playing Sega at the time. So like 98.
You were a Sega kid?
I'm not a video games guy, but I did play Sega. I loved it.
Okay.
That's the only thing I've ever enjoyed in my life for video games. And I'd play Sports Talk Baseball in 93. And I was playing it even in like 98. So I'd be like, Milt Kyler. Milt Kyler's playing in this league.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Oh, it was insane. I mean, I was really bad at baseball. So I was never super into baseball to the point where I had baseball cards. I think I had like 5 baseball cards. I was a very chubby kid growing up, but I only liked fat athletes for pro athletes. So I had like a Dave Wells card, like a Kirby Puckett card, Mo Vaughn. I just like
Cecil Fielder?
I didn't have a Cecil Fielder card, but only because I don't think he was even on my radar at that point. It was just like the really famous fat guys I loved. I loved slobs. For the same reason why I was in like junior high and high school, I loved Sean May. You remember that basketball player, Sean May? Yeah. He wasn't really much of a pro career, but I just like fat guys that could put it together athletically. So they were always my idols.
Hey, Kirby Puckett was a world champion. I know a lot of people that love Kirby Puckett. I was at his Hall of Fame induction.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's sad how his career ended. And he never really got over it.
I honestly don't remember. I don't know much. I played sports my whole life, as you know. Yeah. I don't really... I was the captain of every football team I ever played on. I, to this day, don't know all the rules of football. To this day, will be sitting there watching a game with our friends and be like... Oh yeah, I totally, I'm dumbfounded sometimes because on every sport I played, I had one little job.
Yeah.
And I just did that, and Let the skinny kids figure out all that, complicated stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's still people in the NFL. They're like, when it ends in a tie, they go, "I didn't know it could end in a tie." I'm like, okay.
I honestly didn't know it could end in a tie. I had no idea.
That's been coming up for years and years and years. But so we know that you're a rapper, though. What are 3 things that everybody should know about you?
That's a good question. I'd say first and foremost, especially within the framework of being a rapper, I'd say, what I do is very authentic. I've been recording music for over 20 years now. It is at a very high skill level, and it truly is poetry. And it's something that I used to hate when people used to say that. It sounded so corny. It sounded so like Disney movie teacher, like, "Hey guys, you want to learn poetry? It's just like rap," and so I hated, even comparing the two, but I started writing poetry before I ever started recording hip hop music. I've always loved hip hop music. I'd say probably Busta Rhymes' album, The Coming, when that hit the radio, when Woo-Ha hit the radio, that just instantly I knew, like, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to be that. And a lot of speed bumps, to get to the point where I am now, and where I am now is absolutely nowhere near where I would like to be. And so I'd say, the main difference between what I was doing 20 years ago and what I'm doing now is that now it's actually starting to take the shape of what could possibly be one day, under the right conditions, a career.
Yeah.
And so that's where everything's pointed, and it's tough. I still work a 9-to-5 job, but I'd say, mainly what you got to know about me is that, what I do is truly an art form. I do it at a very high level, and I think that what I do and the way I present it is unique. And yeah, I'd say the biggest problem with a lot of music, and specifically popular music, and with hip hop, it's worse in hip hop than in any other genre, but that so many people are doing their best to sound like someone else. They are doing their best to really do an impression of their favorite rapper, or who they think is the most popular rapper. And to me, I've just always despised that, to the point where I really don't listen to much hip-hop music if I'm writing. So like the better part of the last year, I've been recording an album, and I've listened to almost no hip-hop music, just in case subconsciously I might accidentally sound like someone. Yeah.
No. What are 2 other things, like, just in the life of Pleasure Pete?
I'm an avid chess player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love chess, and that's something. I mean, at my office, at my job, I have 3 games going at any point in time. I got boards set up all over the place. At least one at home going, even if it's against myself. And then beyond that, I mean, I'd say what I touched on earlier is what sets me apart and makes me a little different. I think it's important to inform you, kind of what kind of artist I am, is that I really don't. Hip hop is not my, the first go-to music I listen to. I love hip hop music. Making it is what fulfills me.
Yeah.
But if I have to reach for, if you opened up my phone right now and opened up Spotify, it would be maybe 40% hip hop.
Okay.
And then the rest of it is an absolute smorgasbord.
Just everywhere.
Yeah. Well, for the most part.
Any country at all?
No, absolutely not.
No?
I was about to get there. Yeah. No, I mean, country's kind of a vague term. So there are artists from that kind of region that, in different eras, that may have, a kind of twang to their voice, or the musicality of it is kind of country-esque, but as a general rule, no. It's not something that it's a hate in my heart that I can't get out, it's something I want to promote, or, if you like country music, that's awesome. Listen to all the country music you want.
Not for you.
I can't. It makes my ears melt.
See, I never really liked it until I went to Plymouth State. I never even listened to a country station. Now that, like, Plymouth is like the South, right? It's North New Hampshire. I walk into a subway and I was like, country music in a subway? And the more I listened to it, I began to like it.
See, that makes me mad. Like when that happens to me, like when I have to go to Walmart to pick up batteries.
Pop country. I don't like the twangy stuff. I don't
like any of it. It's so grating to me. It's awful. It's for the same reason why I don't like a lot of what's on Kiss 108. It's all kind of blended into the same thing for me. And a lot of pop country is actually really, borderline doing an impression of hip hop, and regular pop music. It's all kind of crossed over. The difference now is really the accents and subject matter, but the music of it, half the country songs I hear on the radio right now, they're using a drum machine. You see the performers, and they're affecting a very hip hop stage show. The whole thing it's very hip hop. Hip hop's the most popular form of music on earth, so it makes sense. That's what people like. But yeah, I don't know. I'm also picky with music. I'm kind of a jerk when it comes to even with with my own music.
That's a Chris Warren thing too.
That
must have been that neighborhood.
Well, yes, and to put it in context, Chris was my first friend in life. And he, I could see his house from my house, and we were together all the time. But yeah, he made me a skeptic, but when it comes to music, I took it to a whole new level. Yeah. To this day, I love you, Chris, but we'll argue about whether, Jay-Z albums after Volume 2 are even any good.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But I kind of took it to a different level. Even with this album I'm doing right now, I'm working with an incredibly talented producer that is 10,000 times more talented than I am musically. And I told him right from jump, I'm going to hate 80% of the beats you send me.
Yeah.
And I was right. Actually, with him, it's probably more like 65, but he's very good. But yeah, it's tough. I've always kind of been that way. But I think that's also what adds a quality to my music. It's very unique, and I would rather release one album, every couple of years, few singles, and really just do music when I feel I have something to say.
Yeah.
Versus the school of thought where it's like, just gotta keep pumping it out, pump it out, pump it out. You need to do 50 songs a year, you need to do 20 videos a year, you need to do 10 radio appearances and yada, and which I don't disagree. That is a formula for success. But for what I do, I've never really played in that lane because I feel like what I do is different enough and obviously different enough that I don't have to play that game.
Yeah. And we're going to talk quite a bit about your musical career. And one more question, just getting to know you. And this is being Let Freedom Ring. We ask everybody this question. This is the big money question of Let Freedom Ring because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does it mean to you to be an American?
It's an interesting question. I think it's meant different things to me over the years. It's something that definitely morphed. My mother didn't grow up in the United States. My father was born here and then grew up all over North Africa and the Middle East and then came back here. It's in his early childhood. My grandparents on both sides had grandparents that didn't grow up here. So while I'm not a first-generation American in a technical sense, I definitely felt like I was, of the first wave for a lot of my family. And it was ground into me, particularly on my mother's side, how important it is to be an American, to be born in America, to have the freedoms of an American. And I really held on to that part of me until probably 12, 13 years old. And things got a little crazy right around 2000, 2001.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
And what it meant to be an American changed for me without me having my feelings changed. 9/11 happened, and then all of a sudden, I'm an American, but I have a Muslim last name. Mm-hmm. And so I'm an American, but a lot of people I know, including people in my neighborhood, teachers, friends, acquaintances, people in sports teams, all of a sudden it's, well, yeah, but aren't you like, aren't you something? Aren't you? And so it became, okay, well, maybe it's a little bit different than the way I thought, but this is still, the greatest place on earth. It's the best country on earth. And the older I got, and the more complicated I think my relationship with what I thought it was to be an American became, and what, am I proud to be an American? Which I've always felt that way. Is it right to be proud to be? What is this whole thing? And I think where I'm at now is that becoming an adult for me, and I was quite a late bloomer, so this didn't happen like when I turned 18, but becoming an adult, and really, I think what it meant for me to become an adult and this is gonna meld into what it means for me to become an American, but is realizing that, well, we're not always the good guy. And that was heartbreaking for me, really heartbreaking. I mean, coming from a household where my mother, who came from the Soviet Union, would stream tears down her face when she heard the national anthem of the United States, that even though she was a waitress, always would buy us Levi's jeans, because that was what it meant to be American, wearing Levi's jeans. And to this day, that is still part of it for me. But ultimately, grappling with figuring out that maybe the entire history of the country isn't as peachy keen as I once thought it was, and that there are some pretty tough things to swallow, and there continue to be. And the fact, that during, from 12 to very recently, we have been at war, and we have been bombing people and killing people, and we've been attacked, and there's been terrorism all over the world, and it seems like the world got crazy. And so it got muddy for me what it meant to be an American. But I think at the end of the day, what makes me happy and what I think I can take solace in is that being an American to me is, I have the comfort of sitting here and being able to contemplate all these things, and I'm not packing my family's belongings into one bag and running for an airport. I'm not starving. I have a job. I have healthy kids that can go to the doctor. Now, are there little things like, do I wish that doctor was free? Probably. There are some of those situations I describe in other countries that we don't have to deal with, maybe perhaps caused or exacerbated by U.S. foreign policy? Probably. But at the end of the day, who the hell am I to complain? I'm sitting here drinking bottled water in front of action figures, talking to my childhood friend in the TV studio. So it could be a lot worse. And I guess that to me, in my 30s, as a father, as a husband, as a business owner now that I started a label, that means a whole lot. But at the end of the day, it means, I think, comfort. And that's the most important takeaway at this phase of my life. 10 years from now, if you're still doing the show, ask me again, and I'll have a whole bunch of other crazy things to say.
No, I love that answer. We get a lot of different ones. And I know we aren't always the good guys. There's just a lot of different ways you can look at it. Because some people just think that, hey, if I wave the flag, I'm American. It's a lot more than that. It's a complicated topic. A lot of people hear the show Let Freedom Ring, they think they assume it's a right-wing show. It's not. No, I like that answer a lot, but I do want to get into your music career here. How did you get into, well, we kind of know how you got in music. When did you officially start rapping or get into that?
So, another gentleman from Nashua, New Hampshire, by the name of Decap. At the time,
remember Decap?
Oh yeah, Decap who's extremely successful, and he's out in San Francisco, I believe, and he does what Decap does, which has always just been producing and being an engineer and just an all-around hip-hop phenom at the highest level. But he kind of took this kid Johnny under his wing, and Johnny was the little brother of this guy who was like DJing and kind of rapping a little bit, who was a few years older than me in school, but I played football with him. Steve Ramos.
Yes.
You played football, or you played sports with Steve.
Yeah.
You know Steve. And so they had this like little corner of the bedroom studio set up with a mic and a old computer and the whole nine, and Johnny was like, hey, I made a beat. Decap showed me how to make beats, and I made my first beat. He's like, come over. I heard you rap. I said, okay. And I went over to his house, and if I can help it, nobody that I know now in my life will ever hear that song. But it started something, and I realized, I'd already known that, like, oh, this is what I want to do, and I've been writing forever, and I'd been trying to piece together songs, and I still didn't have a song figured out. But I had the idea of like, okay, this is, I go here and I have raps in my head. I got them written down in a notebook, and I go and I stand in front of this microphone, and it kind of, I started figuring out the process, studio etiquette, I'll never forget Steve Ramos telling me like, dude, you're just fucking, pardon me.
Sorry, we'll edit.
We'll edit, yeah. You are spilling words all over the page, but these aren't bars. Like, this isn't a structured rhyme. Like, you need to, and he taught me how to structure my rhyme, because before I would just basically say, okay, the beat would start, and I'd just go, be like, okay, was that enough? Like, was that 16? I don't know. Never been a math guy, but he at least taught me how to count in bars and how to structure at least a verse. And then I did that for a while, and I'd say I was never really satisfied with anything I recorded. Took a couple years to really sit back and say, okay, how do I make a song? I know how to write rhymes. I can do that very well. I could freestyle with the best of them. I can write all my rhymes. I could fill notebooks for days and days, but how do you make this something that people want to listen to for 2-3 minutes?
Yeah.
And so at that point, I don't know if you remember a kid named Pat Guiney. He had a little studio in his basement.
Yeah.
So now I'm probably 16, I want to say.
Now, are you already developing because, I mean, honestly, you do have a certain style and a name, so. Pleasure Pete. Are you already coming, is that already happening at this point?
So I was just Pete. I never had like a rap name. Pleasure Pete didn't come until a couple years later. And that was, so in Nashua, it used to be just one high school, one public high school.
Oh, yeah.
Big old high school, like 4,000 or 5,000 kids. My senior classes, they split us in half. And so my senior year, it was a north school and a south school. But my sophomore year was the last year of the old high school. So I'm sure you remember this, but after that year, they tore the whole building down.
Oh, yeah. They tore down like half and then let them
They did half, let us go to the other half for that year, and then they tore the rest of it completely down, literally an hour after we left school that day. But point being, there was a bunch of the school that was pretty much abandoned.
Yeah.
And at the time, and this is public access, so I'll be vague, but at the time,
they can't arrest you for something 20 years ago.
A great friend of mine, Vinny Loria, who's now a super successful chef who's out there in Hong Kong.
I know Vinny well, yep.
You know Vinny very well. And Vinny, who's the one who gave me the name Pleasure Pete.
Oh, okay.
And that was after he gave me the pro tip of showing me that the culinary program had their own locker rooms.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I had no idea. I know Vinny was part of it.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
And nobody else did, which meant that there was no one ever in the culinary locker rooms. And so that was a big tip for me. And Vinny always thought that it was very funny that I was a heavy guy and still was... I'm trying to think of a way to say this. I had some success with the ladies, let's say. And so from that, he started calling me Pleasure Pete, completely separate from anything to do with music. He was just calling me that. And
like a nickname,
the second he said it to me, I said, oh my God. And it stuck. And there were times when I kind of toyed with like, do I want to be Pleasure Pete anymore? I kind of, this was kind of chosen for, I want, and everyone around me, myself, in my dreams, like don't mess with.
Because your style is very, I'm not saying raunchy, but like...
It's sensual.
Yeah.
I like to say sensual.
I feel that, yeah.
Sexual is saying it's a little too much.
Yeah.
It's sensual. We're more dignified than that.
I think you said to me in the emails like sensually Pete or something like that.
Yeah, that's how I sign my that's how I sign my notes. Sensually yours.
So you see some growth there. You get the name, obviously. So at this point, now you're transitioning from high school to your early 20s. At that point, is that where you start to be like, okay, I'm going to roll with Pleasure Pete. This is what I'm going to do.
Yes, I mean, at that point, it wasn't an option. Everyone was calling me Pleasure Pete anyway, and I loved it so much that I started attaching it to everything. So it came. I would say that period of time was actually probably when I had the most speed bumps of translating what I wanted to do and executing. I had failed out of college. I was living in Boston from 18 to like 21. I came back. I was working in nightclubs. I was just like a bouncer, and I wanted to do an album. I knew I wanted to do an album, but that's all I knew. I had an album written, and one of my best friends from high school's older brother was a DJ and a producer, and he'd given us like beat tapes over the years, and I'd rap to a bunch of them, and we'd recorded a couple songs, but he made a beat tape that was a bunch of remixes from like the 80s, 90s rapper Granddaddy IU, who's an absolute legend. To this day, he's a mentor to me. He's a great guy, which we connected years later, which I'll tell that story. But he made this remix CD of all these Granddaddy IU songs from his album Smooth Assassin. And I heard this, and I just absolutely flipped out. I mean, I played this CD probably 60, 70 times in my car, in the like crappy little RCA boombox I had in my room, just over and over and over and over again. I was all depressed from having failed out of college, and I'm just like, I need to do something. And I heard this and just immediately said, yeah, send me all those instrumentals. And Dino's the type of guy that, you know... Tyler Dean, yes.
Yeah, another very talented guy.
Another very talented guy from right around the way. Again, a guy that grew up within quite literally a stone's throw of me, Chris Warren, and a whole bunch of people that would go on to do some pretty interesting things. But yeah, he's a guy that, you know, you ask him, send me that beat tape, and he's going to send it to you. You just don't know if he's going to send it to you a year from now, or, you know, maybe
Sounds
it'll
like
show
Chris
up
Warren too.
Yeah, maybe it'll show up on your doorstep. So I was lucky enough, he just hit me off right away. I think he maybe gave it to Justin, his little brother, who was my best friend, and gave it to me, and I just basically rewrote the album that I had to match those specific beats. And I think there were like 10 or 11 of them. We went back to the drawing board about where we're going to record this. Tyler had like an old like stage mic that we didn't even have a mic stand. And so we would pile up like shoe boxes and cardboard boxes and just cut a hole in the one that was at the top and jam this old stage mic in. And that's what we recorded. But realized we have to step it up for the album. Yeah. And I was working as a head of security at like 19, 20 years old at the Amber Room, which was this nightclub that opened up in Nashua. Yeah. And the guy that was like the head doorman, who we went to high school with, but he was a year or two older than me, and we didn't really cross paths in high school. This guy, Dan, and he had a pretty nice studio in his basement, way nicer than anything I'd ever recorded on. So we decided we're going to do the album there, and I recorded that. Again, and this is what plagued me, I'd say, for the first like 15 years of me doing hip-hop music, was I would get 100 feet from the finish line, and then something would happen, and I would turn left. So this one, I recorded the whole album. Everything's ready to rock. We have the artwork. We have everything. And then I kind of wigged out, and I went to go visit my mom, who was living in Switzerland at the time, because she kind of wigged out, just married this random French guy in Switzerland, and she moved out there. So like, hey, and my parents were divorced, by the way, so it's not like, she was just like ran away. But yeah, she just met some guy on a plane and was like, oh, it's fate, and moved to Switzerland. So I was out visiting her, and I met all these graffiti artists from this crew, like HSB, the Hot Shot Bombers, and a few other like musicians, expats from other countries that were hanging around, and we became fast friends, and I decided, wow, what do I need to go back to Nashua for? And I just kind of abandoned the album and coasted around Switzerland for 6 months. I ran out of money.
What year is this at this point?
It's got to be 07-ish, I want to say.
All right.
But yeah, I sold my car back in the United States for a couple $1,000 to get a little further, you know, in Switzerland, and then got caught doing something I shouldn't have been doing there. I mean, just a little grass, but I mean, which is perfectly fine if you're a citizen. Not so much if you're a visitor.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so, they basically said, your visa's up, get out. So I came back, and while like a week before I came back, I said, oh yeah, I have to do something with this album. So, and looking back on it now, I realize, you know, all of my mistakes, which is the beauty of making mistakes. You learn from them, but I just rushed everything to print. I had, I think, like 400 CDs printed up, which is way more than I probably should have done. And I had the artwork that was just, I'd never worked with a graphic designer. It got a little crazy. And album came out. I sold 50 copies. And then, once again, thing, you know, had a little bit of momentum, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back to school. And then I started the off and on switch with college, and I didn't prioritize music. And then until I'd say about 5 years ago, when our friend Brady and another
Yeah,
Nashua
yeah,
native.
that was gonna be my next. No, how many albums do you have out?
Well, that's an interesting question. Out, how many albums? I've been doing music for a while. I'm releasing music for a while. I've always been. Well, I should say, until very recently, I've been very disorganized.
Okay.
And so I didn't know how anything worked until very. I'm stupid and I'm hard headed and I throw stuff out there. But I had a full studio album, home studio album. Now it's got to be over 10 years ago.
Okay.
And then I did what we called a mixtape because it was, in the true sense of the word, it was one 37-minute song, and it was just completely mixed by Dino, by Gilladine, Tyler Dean. And I loved that, and we never did anything with it. I think maybe 12.
But you're not if you look up Pleasure Pete on YouTube, there's a lot to find there.
Yes, although there's less to find as of a couple weeks ago because I was just informed that my last EP. Well, I wouldn't even know how to monetize. I mean, we're working on getting the YouTube channel going, and but no, I just was informed that the last EP that I released, produced by this guy B-Cap from New England Noise, who's really great, good friend of mine, was removed from streaming. I haven't gotten an explanation why. I haven't gotten the
YouTube doesn't.
The final
they
reason.
Don't really give you much.
Yeah, this wasn't YouTube. This was all streaming platforms.
Oh,
This was the people that put it out to the streaming platforms yanked it.
Okay.
So that one, it could be a number of reasons. Although nothing was my fault.
Yeah.
It was it's all these other people.
We're getting a little short on time because there's still a bunch of stuff I want to get through here.
Yeah, pardon me.
No worries. I have to say I don't want to get into it too much. Your music videos are very legit. They look like something on MTV.
Thank you. Well, MTV doesn't play videos.
Well,
anymore.
it's something I would have been on MTV. What's your now? Brady Watt has done a lot of big things now in the music industry. He's worked with Talib Kweli. He's with. Brady's from Nashville. He's done a lot of
At this point,
big
the list is shorter of people he hasn't worked with.
One video that really caught my attention was you were on Shady 45.
I was on Shady 45.
How did that come about?
That was Brady. That was all Brady.
And they were very impressed with you, from what I saw in the video.
Well, video's magic. They're going to make me look great after they edit this. So, I mean, but it's. No, that was an incredible experience. I had Brady and me and Gilladine had recorded a full-length album. Brady recorded it, engineered it all, executive produced it. We recorded it as Brownstone in Harlem, which was a great experience. But to promote the album, Brady, through working very closely with Static Select over the years, was able to get me on Static's show. And I'll say, I'm glad that you thought that it came off well.
I was very impressed.
To this day, it's a goal of mine, to claw my way back to that show and redeem myself because I didn't feel the same way. I felt like I was unprepared. I felt like I blew a big opportunity. Part of what's really driven me over the last few years in terms of putting everything together and making sure I stay prepared and making sure I'm checking all the boxes and doing all the steps and not skipping anything is specifically the way I felt after leaving that studio, after leaving the Sirius Studios, walking out of that place I could have done better. I wanted to do better. Can I just run back in real quick? Can I do over?
What was it? Because I honestly, I'm not. You know way more about hip hop than I do. I watched it. I thought it was awesome. But am I not the demographic that they're trying to hit?
You know what? It might be me in my own head.
Yeah.
But it's to this day, I want that one back, and I will get that one back. One day I'll get back on Static Show and I'll redeem myself, at least in my own head. It makes me happy that you liked it though.
Oh, I was like, hey, that's Pete. I was very proud to see
it.
It
Was
really cool.
It was pretty crazy getting on a Lucky Star bus after getting out of work and making my trek from Nashua to Manhattan to get up into a real radio studio and the whole. I mean, it was definitely life-changing. It was a huge opportunity. Static was great. Term was great. I will thank Brady a million times over every day for giving me a lot of these opportunities. But yeah, I want that one back. I'll redeem myself on that one.
And just sticking on the Brady topic, he put out a song during the pandemic, which was kind of a shout out to New England because I know he moved to New York, back around the way. Which I take it that was all different New England rappers. I don't know if every state was represented.
I want to say,
because I wasn't familiar with everybody in it.
So I want to say it was almost all Massachusetts for the pretty much, and which is a big part of the reason why Brady needed me to come and represent for us.
Tell me a little bit about how he asked you to do that and shooting that video, which is an incredible song, incredible video. Vinny Loria shows up in the video.
Oh, a lot of this is serendipitous. A lot of this is just works out, and then life just has a funny way about it. So I'd heard he'd had that idea for a while, and growing up, we'd all loved the song "Home" by the Creators.
Yeah,
and he'd always kind of wanted to do like an homage to that, and our version of that, and it got to the point, I mean, in Brady's career where what's holding him back, he can do it.
Yeah.
He knows all these people. He works with all these people, and let's put a song together. Where I fit in was, it was a bunch of Boston boys, and he needed someone from New Hampshire to come in and, remind them that we're no slouches over here.
Yeah,
and we get down because Brady couldn't represent us by himself on there. We needed somebody on the mic, so he called me and told me, I need you to absolutely murder this one, and so I did. And I'm very, very happy with how my verse came on that one.
It's a great song, great video.
It's a fun one. I mean, I listen to that song, once a week. I really, really like that one. The video was another thing that kind of came about.
So who's film? Is this your backyard or where?
So my portion is in the backyard, yes. But so for Brady's label, this dude Crusoe, who does a lot of their film work, a lot of their videos, he's the man. I met him for the first time then. We clicked. I loved working with him. He put up with a lot. It's a lot to work with me, if you could imagine. I mean, especially like a 12-hour day of shooting video, hot summer, and going nuts. So originally it was supposed to be a video with all the people in the song together. But Millie's got COVID right before the video shoot. Yeah. So we had to shoot all of our parts individually once he recovered.
Which I think made the video more unique.
Actually, I think it kind of worked out pretty well. I think it looked really cool. So once again, that's why I speak about it. It kind of just worked out.
Yeah.
And Vinny happened to be home from Hong Kong because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so we went and we got a bunch of like giant cowboy steaks, like, tomahawk steaks, and said, all right, Vinny, let's go crazy. We'll go to Lowell Farm, get some supplies, and, we went nuts. It was fun.
I really enjoyed that. I've watched it so many times. So cool. I mean, even just seeing Vinny just in it for 2 seconds, just throwing his hands up there, but awesome. And I looked up a lot of those rappers later because obviously I'm not as familiar with what goes on there, but a lot of them, I did send that video to a few people. I was like, oh, check this. And they were like, oh, I know that guy, So a lot of great video. Your videos are all really entertaining. I thought the one you did with Jay Essential was good when you're in the house. Scratch
that. That was my first real video.
That was pretty good.
That one was actually my cousin.
Okay.
So my cousin Max Blecker, who he grew up in New York.
I'm pretty sure Gordon Pominville's in that too, in that video, if I'm thinking the right one. Have you had a few with Jay Essential?
Yes. So we might be thinking of two different ones.
There was one maybe 2017. I can't.
Because I'm almost positive.
In my I can't even get the.
He might be in that one. That was a Jay Essential song. That wasn't one of mine.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So that was.
But still, like they're all. And then you had the one where you're the professor and you get fired.
So that one was shot and directed by Colin Fowler, who has done like 2 or 3 videos with me. We're working on another one right now. It's probably almost finished, but might be finished tonight actually. Colin's been a huge resource to me. Another person that's really been an outlet for me, kind of creatively, and allowed me to put a lot of my stupid ideas on camera and figure out a way to translate what's in this mess, and make it happen. But he's been great. He's done a few videos for me.
You can if you just put in Pleasure Pete into YouTube, you can find these videos. They're very well done. Like they're great. They're great videos.
I mean, I'm lucky. I work with people that are very, very talented at shooting and editing video. And much like the way I do music, I would rather put out a few videos that are super high quality than put out 30 videos in a year that were kind of all the same thing, or that lacked originality. When I do a video for a song, I take it very seriously. I want to make sure that I'm an entertainer, and no matter what I'm doing, if I'm talking to you, if I'm telling you a joke, if I'm dancing, I want you to enjoy looking at me, listening to me, whatever it is. Same thing with a video. It can't just be the song. It can't just be you standing there and rap. I hate that. For the same reason why a hip-hop show sucks when it's just a rapper standing there rapping.
It's like when you have a live band, it changes the whole dynamic.
And it doesn't have to be a live band, but it's got to be more. Give me some story. Give me some storyboard something out. Write a little something. Have a skit in the middle. Do something to kind of break it up. But that's why I don't do 40 videos a year. But the ones I do, I appreciate that you appreciate them.
Yeah, no, they're really good.
The views would not indicate that many people do. Yeah.
Views on YouTube are hard because it comes down to shares or you're doing something stupid. A lot of the things that the big hits on YouTube are people being fools.
That, and I'd imagine that, a guy walking out of a gritty apartment, sniffing a pair of panties and walking around in a trench coat and underwear is not exactly for everybody. Yeah. It doesn't hit the, the main YouTuber demographic. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the song is good too. So, that's part of it. I do want to talk about it because you're wearing the hat. You started Pleasure Dome Records this year. Tell us a little about that. How did you decide that? What are your plans for it?
Well, I decided to, start a label the same way that I decide so many things in my life, and I didn't think about it much, and it was super impulsive. And I did a song with a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years, Spose. He's the king of Maine. He's been around forever. He's been rapping forever, well over a decade, and he's just, everything he does is just good, and he's a good guy, and I actually, oddly enough, like most people I work with, met him outside of music. We worked next to each other at the cash register at True Value Hardware on Salem Street in the North End in college. Yeah. A couple of years later, the guy's signed to a label and just absolutely touring the world, and he's unreal. But he's also been great to me over the years, and a good outlet and a resource to me, and just a great friend. But I forget how I talked about why we.
How'd you start? Why? What's the plans for it?
Yeah. So anyway, did a song. Yeah, sorry, I did a song with him, and I got like way more streams, way more attention, way more engagement than I've ever gotten 10 times over, including after doing Back Around the Way. Just because he has such a loyal fan base, and they range all over the place. So when it comes to demographics, I'm really locked in with guys our age. Yeah. But female fans, younger fans that are maybe not necessarily traditional hip hop people, I don't resonate necessarily well, or don't know how to market to them, or for whatever reason they don't make up a big percentage. Those are a lot of his fans kind of filled in those gaps, and all of a sudden I got just a wave of new fans, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to turn left this time. Yeah. Every other time I've had a little bit of momentum. I've found a way, and perhaps it's being, subconsciously a self-saboteur, but I'm not turning left. I'm just going full bore. And I didn't quite know what that meant. I didn't know what I had to do. I just had this idea. And there's this Coleridge poem, in Xanadu did Kublai Khan a stately pleasure dome decree. And pleasure dome has just been in my head since I was a little kid. Yeah. Pleasure dome. And the symbol for the record label is the triangular manhole cover, which is something that is native to Nashua, New Hampshire. Okay. The triangular manhole cover, we were the last place to have them in the ground functionally, but it had a purpose. The reason they were triangles was because the way that it faced, that was the water flow. So they didn't have to look up the map and pull out the, they knew if they had to jump in, all right, the water's going this way on that one, yada, yada. And they were made at the Nashua Foundry. Okay. So I've always thought that that's a stupid thing that nobody really gets, but for me, it's always been a real Nashua thing, our triangular manhole covers. So I knew Pleasure Dome, I knew Triangular Manhole Cover, and I just jumped. I called someone the next day after I had this epiphany, and I said, I need you to design me a logo right now. My buddy Brian from, BCAP, who produced my EP, who, prints all of my shirts. So, he did this, he did this. This isn't even me. This is a different band. But he does everyone around. He's great. He designed a logo for me. I bought a URL like immediately and had it linked to my website.
Oh, I'll have to put that in the description. Yeah, I'll send that
I
to
called
me.
I called up, what do I do? And went online and LLC'd the business immediately and just, not knowing, and we'll see how this goes after tax season. But I didn't know, I still don't exactly know what I'm doing. And I don't exactly know where this is headed. I just know I had to do it. And I knew when I was growing up, and a dream for a lot of kids, a lot of rappers especially, that came from, that kind of bridge world from the 90s to the 2000s, is I want to get signed. I want to get signed. I want to get signed to a record label. That doesn't even matter anymore. And those deals don't exist anymore.
It's so different.
Why not? I mean, everything's at your disposal now. The internet and social media and the fact that web speed allowing us to stream and download music at the snap of a finger. You be your own label, be your own entity. And for what do I need to be signed to so-and-so records when I can put out the song? They expect you to do all your own marketing on social media anyway. They expect you to do it all anyway. Why give someone else an 80% cut? You know? I might be dumb, but I'm not stupid. And I think that I could make something happen. And if I can't, well then I'm no worse off, and I will hate myself if I never tried. So
you gotta take risks.
Let's just go. It's Pleasure Dome Records.
Is there a way to find your merch? Is there a merch store on the website?
PleasurePete.com.
Okay.
So all of the Pleasure Pete, at the moment.
And we're not saying to buy this. I'm just saying where they can find it, Justin. All right.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to directly say buy this, but if you're interested.
Listen, if you're interested, poke around PleasurePete.com. It's not just a shop. It's links to all the music, all the videos. There's a blog. I was about to say monthly blog, but I'm not locking myself. No promises. PleasurePete.com. I don't know if it's actually fully linked yet, but PleasureDomeRecords.com will just bring you there anyway. So it's PleasurePete.com is the main site, and then it's that's a newer thing, getting the site built out and doing e-commerce. It's a whole thing I wasn't prepared for and just jumped into, but now I'm learning it and loving it.
Are you performing locally right now? I did see something. Okay.
So
is that on the website if you're interested in going?
Yes. So there'll be an events page, but also all the social media. So
do you use? Because I couldn't. Is there a Facebook page?
There was a Facebook page. It was inactive for like 5 years because again, I did one of those left turns and said, social media, who needs it? And bad move. So it
owns everything.
Yeah, I'm in the process of now. I've been active on Instagram, Twitter. The other ones, but I realize now that you might as well just use all the tools at your disposal. So I'm in the process of, getting the old passwords and all that back. And again, I think I know what I have to do, but you have to. They make you do a professional one now because they want your ad money and they want you to run ads. So doing all that jazz. So maybe you'll see an ad from me pop up on your Facebook feed soon. But I'm getting the Facebook back in there. Primarily Instagram, Twitter is the best place for the social media stuff. But when it comes to any appearances, like if I'm jumping on someone else's show, if I'm doing a show, if we're having Pleasure Dome Records does events, pop-up events.
Yeah,
like
I saw
once every
something
5-6
around
weeks now.
Thanksgiving, I think. Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I'd like to get down to definitely one.
Although I think we've outgrown the headquarters already, so the next one will likely not be in office because we were packed in there like sardines the last time.
Really?
So
we'll be in COVID era. It's like
we'll be somewhere local, downtown Nashua for sure. Just maybe not the actual Pleasure Dome Records offices because I don't think we'll fit. But
fair enough.
Yeah, it'll all be on the website, social medias, and I'm around. So you see me walking down Main Street, just ask.
All right, awesome. Well, I do want to get into my favorite segment of the show before the end of the show, which is blank versus blank. I'm going to give you two things. You got to pick one and tell me why.
Okay.
Tupac or Biggie?
Biggie, but I hate that question.
Okay.
Never been a huge Tupac fan, and I know I'm going to get slaughtered for this after, and not because Tupac's not good, not because I don't think he's wildly talented.
Yeah.
Like Tupac as an actor quite a bit, but yeah, music was never my thing.
Well, that's the thing, though, about music. Not everybody's going to like the same thing.
No.
A lot like pro wrestling, which is my favorite thing.
Yeah, I loved pro wrestling as a kid, and it just kind of faded out for me.
Everybody has what they like.
Yeah.
Now, I ask this question to every guest, and I'm going to ask this probably until the end of time. Who's more responsible for the success of the New England Patriots over the last 20 years, Brady or Belichick? And I only ask this because Brady left, and I'm curious what you think.
I'm going to have to think about that. It's the most serious question you've asked all night. This is the most important one, at least. So 6-8 months ago, I would have very easily answered that question, and it would have been, "Oh, Tommy, get out of here."
Now we're starting to see the genius.
I think that this season definitely spiced things up. I think that if I had to, gun to my head, pick one, I'd probably still lean towards Tommy.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. However, I think that, 6 to 8 months ago, I would have been like a 90-10. Looks like this was all Tommy. Now, maybe more like a 65% Tommy. But
Yeah.
I still think that he was a once-in-a-generation talent. I think he's the best football player that's... Granted, my opinion means nothing. I started this by saying I didn't know the rules to football. So, don't take it from me.
Well, the rules in the NFL are always changing.
Yeah.
Anyways. So.
Not even allowed to tackle anymore. But, yeah, I don't know. I would say probably more Tommy. Time will tell, though, because, Bill's, 70?
Yeah. Well,
No, actually, I think
68.
he's 69 or something cool
he's the
like
same
that.
age as my
Yeah.
parents, I think.
But, yeah, and Tom will play till probably 48, 49, 50, who knows.
Crazy what he's
doing.
doing
So, yeah,
now.
I think the jury's still out on this one. But right now, I'm leaning towards Tommy, but it's not a big deficit anymore.
All right. Now, if you're friends with Chris Warren, you probably are a big Kevin Smith fan. Somewhat? Okay. Because I was going to ask you, Clerks or Chasing Amy? Have you seen either one?
Clerks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chasing
Clerks.
Amy's a downer. It really is.
For me, I prefer a more traditional comedy, silly comedy. I like silly, stupid humor. That's what I like. I think that speaks more to who I am.
All right. Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock?
Oh, Stone Cold. That's not even a. That's the most important question because that was when I stopped liking wrestling.
Yeah.
Pretty much after Stone Cold, The Rock, DX, I could care less after that. There was a.
It was the height of the Attitude Era.
I don't even remember. I've never heard it phrased that way, but I like that. The
Yeah.
Attitude Era.
Yeah. That is what it was called, yeah.
Really?
Vince McMahon even marketed it that way, yeah.
See, I never was into it enough, but to this day, love Stone Cold. I loved Stone Cold.
I think, everybody kind of does. He was once in a lifetime.
Oh, man. We went around stunning everyone and everything for years.
Big L or Jay-Z?
Big L.
Died way too young, I think.
Sure. I take his death out of it, take the longevity of the career out of it, skill set for skill set.
Better.
Big L all day. But I think that, and this is a whole nother conversation. And again,
Yeah, we're short on time.
I only have enough room to get crucified by hip hop fans once per episode here because I've already said that I'm not a huge Jay-Z fan and not a Tupac fan. But yeah, I think that with Jay-Z, part of the allure of Jay-Z was the longevity, the success, the ability to morph and change. And, it was a storied career, but skill set wise, that's not even a question. Anyone serious would answer that very quickly.
And Jay-Z started to have bad albums too. All right, we got 3 more. Tribe Called Quest or De La Soul?
Nah, it'd be like that old story of the soldier that wouldn't give it up, so he just impaled himself on the dagger. Yeah, I'm not. No, I won't answer that one. It's not worth it for me. Yeah, no, I love them both equally. They both played a huge part of what made me a hip hop fan and really helped to.
Because if you think this one's hard, wait till you hear what's coming.
Oh, I might have to just tackle you right off this little stage. Yeah.
I'll give you one more softball one before we get to the smoking guns here. Eminem or 50 Cent?
Eminem, though I never really, jeez.
I personally don't like
I never
50
really
Cent.
cared for 50 Cent, but to be honest, I never cared for the bulk of Eminem's catalog.
Yeah.
I thought that, and I don't want to hear about, well, that wasn't actually his first album. The first album, the one that everyone knows.
We want to get you back on Shady 45, so just be careful.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, you're right. What am I thinking? But no, I think Eminem is probably the most skilled MC I've ever heard on a song, but he doesn't differ in, he's no different than any other MC to me. And then I don't like most of your music anyway, because I hate most 80% of all music. I'm a jerk.
Yeah.
But I didn't like a lot of the later stuff, but that's just me being a curmudgeon too.
That's
so
fine.
I don't know, but yeah, that's an easy one for me because I never cared for 50 Cent much.
Well, I'm gonna give you two people, and one of them is kind of the same way when it comes to music, like you, Chris Warren and Vinnie Loria.
I don't understand the nature of the question.
You can only keep one.
I can only keep one. Oh,
don't put your feet to the fire on
that's another easy one. I love you, Vinny, but I didn't meet Vinny till I was probably 12.
Yeah.
I knew Chris Chris knew me when I was born.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one. That's as easy as the big LJZ thing. Love Vinny.
Yeah.
That's my heart, but
Chris is like one of my longest friends that I still talk to on a regular basis.
Chris is the closest thing to an actual brother that I'll ever have. Even so much so as like we constantly argue when we talk. We don't agree on almost anything.
But I love arguing with Chris.
Yeah, and we talk maybe twice, 3 times a year. But so we're truly brothers in that sense. Yeah.
All right, toughest one here, and this is musically two people you've worked with a lot: Brady Watt or Jay Essential. And I never could say Jazz's last name. You got to pick one
to work with.
Yeah, we'll put it that way.
I mean,
because you've done a lot with both of them.
Yeah, Jazz was Jay Essential. So we just called him Jazz growing up. But Jay Essential, and to this day, I think there might not be another MC on the face of this earth that I sound better with on a song.
You guys are awesome.
We bounce off each other so well. I don't know how much rapping Jay Essential's doing these days. I think he started producing.
I don't see him on Facebook ever either.
Close to like a decade ago, I want to say, and he just kind of drifted towards more of the producing side of things. So, I'd say that it's a moot point because I don't know
you can pick ties. We'll take ties.
Yeah, well, I don't know that Jay Essential's really too active right now in music. I think he's more on a production side, and with Brady and I we're literally doing an album together right now. So it's we're working together. We haven't stopped. We've been working together for the half a decade now. Musically. So it's, I'd say that one's a moot point because I don't know how active, Jazz is these days. But I'll put it to you this way. I'm down to get on a song with Jay Essential at any point in time, forever,
Well, no, I love it. I appreciate coming on, Pete. This has been
Thank
a
you
pleasure.
for having me. It was awesome.
We just talked. If you want to find Pleasure Pete, if you can send me those links, we'll put it in the description.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we just talked about Brady Watt, Jay Essential. You can look them up on YouTube and other platforms. A lot of talented musicians that have come out of Nashua, so it's been awesome to have you on, Pete.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody out there, again, if you're asked to wear a mask, we're saying wear a mask. If we're pushing the vaccine, saying go do it. But anyways, until next time, let freedom ring.